What's going on, guys? It's your boy Zach No C here, and today we are going to be taking a look at this brand new Quadeca album, From Me to You. Let's get into it. I'm gonna kick this review off with some honesty for y'all. I genuinely know very little about Quadeca or his output up to this point whatsoever. I know he's a 20-year-old rapper from Los Angeles, and he's been building a buzz via his YouTube channel for a handful of years now, but it wasn't until recently that any of his music ever really crossed my rotation. As I mentioned in last month's Best Tracks recap, his video for the song Sisyphus ended up in my YouTube recommended, and that was my very first time hearing of the guy. I absolutely adored the track. I still do, but upon closer inspection of Quadeca's back catalog, I didn't really find much else that impressed me or really engaged me the way Sisyphus did. You see, Quadeca's back catalog follows a sort of NFE type blueprint. I mean, he's a white rapper who does his best to dazzle with speedy flows and intricate rhyme patterns in hopes that it'll distract from just how f***ing corny the guy spitting it comes off. The kind of rapper that has a fan base filled with cats who are convinced that like Eminem, Tech9, and Hopsin are the only real rappers who have ever lived. God, I hate those people so much. So, going into From Me to You, which I have since learned is Quadeca's 6th full-length project, I really had no idea what to expect. Sisyphus seemed like a complete rework of Quadeca's sound and style, so I wasn't sure if that song was just kind of going to be a one-off or if we were really to be expecting a brand new Quadeca on this latest album. After taking a look, I can definitively say that while Quadeca hasn't completely dropped the sound and the style that people have known him for up to this point, he has absolutely unequivocally elevated this style of hip-hop to one of the greatest artistic heights that I have ever heard it go. The album is lyrically dense with verses that are clever, compelling, and display a lot of emotion and vulnerability. They can sometimes toe the line of being a bit melodramatic, but honestly, I think that it helps merit more authenticity than it does cringiness, in my opinion. It's also very thematically consistent, and honestly, I wouldn't blame you if you called this record a concept album. This is very much a record about journeys and overcoming adversity, be it your own mental health struggles, achieving your goals, learning to believe in yourself, or moving on from traumas, and so on. There are several skits on this record which mainly relate to mountains and mountain climbing, which, as the record goes on, becomes an obvious metaphor for Quadeca's own journey through life, through the music industry, and the ups and downs thereof. The intro cut Couloir is the first of these monologues, kicking the album off with a very dark, cinematic, and spacious instrumental that flows flawlessly into Sisyphus. The themes of a climb really continue onto this track and become much more established by it, using the Greek mythology of Sisyphus pushing the boulder up the mountain to deepen the metaphor that is obviously so pivotal to this LP's narrative. As I said in that other video, the track is just immaculately produced, with dark, emotional, and layered instrumentation that varies in intensity as the track progresses to an incredible climax. This song is also the first taste of the various Frank Ocean-esque harmonies that Quadeca is playing with for the first time all over this album. So I'll say it just in case it wasn't already obvious. I love this track, always loved this track, still love this track, and it is 100% one of the best musical moments of 2021 so far. Now, with Sisyphus being the first real song on the album, I was really afraid that the rest of it would kind of just devolve into the f***ing cornfield that I've known this guy's discography to be up to this point. And oh boy, I am so thankful to say that those fears were completely needless. I have to say straight up, while From Me to You is not a perfect record by any means, it is without a doubt one of my favorite hip-hop records of 2021 so far, and is the first album that I've had the pleasure of reviewing on this channel that is 100% going to be making my favorites list. The album is incredibly cohesive, and it masterfully performs the balancing act of varying the vibe from track to track without ever sacrificing sonic consistency. From front to back, the instrumentals on this album do just as much, if not more, than the lyrics do to create an atmosphere of an emotionally tolling journey in themselves. There is a ton of just thick, deep low end in these mixes with a lot of very frantic percussion and glitchy little instrumental passages, but at the same time, there's also a lot of elements that make the songs feel more orchestral by nature and a lot less like rap instrumentals. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm kind of a slut for bass a little bit, so I mean the fact that the low end is so prevalent 100% of the time on this record, no matter what the vibe really is something that is totally up my alley. Each song flows into the next one seamlessly, and every instrumental moment on here keeps me just as engaged as the vocal ones do, even when there is no vocal to speak of. I do have to admit that the vocal performances on this album are quite a bit spottier than the instrumentals are, but if anything, it is a testament to just how fantastic of a composer and a beatsmith Quadeca is, so much so that I genuinely believe that he could go up to bat with anybody who has ever walked a Grammys stage. To go a little bit deeper on the vocal front, while I had no complaints about Sisyphus vocally whatsoever, I do have to admit that not every single track on here does escape the general corniness that's typically associated with hip-hop of this style. Quadeca can occasionally slur a little bit in some of the speedier rap sections, but honestly, it's subtle enough that it adds character more than anything from my view. There isn't any significant low points for the length of an entire track, but I do have to admit that Quadeca does need to work on his singing on some of the album's more straightforward moments. The fact that the singing on songs like Shades of Us and Smiling at the Ground was so mediocre really distracted me on my first few listens from all the other fantastic elements that are incorporated into these tracks. Both cuts are actually really catchy and engaging and are some of Quadeca's most compelling displays of vulnerability overall. The tracks have grown on me a lot since those first listens, but they've grown on me in spite of the singing. I really would have preferred if he took a more creative approach to it the way he did on It's All a Game and Can't You See, among other moments later on in the track list. They also focus on themes of self-doubt and resentment like many others in this track list do, but they both add up to some of the record's most charming and self-aware moments. This one bar on Smilin' at the Ground really stuck out to me where he says, "I'm a fucking guilty pleasure, I'm like Jaden Smith to you." I thought that was really hilarious and tongue-in-cheek, and is a great example of Quadeca's ability to self-deprecate and while still coming off as self-aware and not necessarily cringy. The album also features a lot of sincerely incredible bangers. When Quadeca turns the energy up, his very in-your-face, forward, and expressive deliveries set to these 10 out of 10 instrumentals are just absolute fireworks. I'm talking like every single time. Candles on Fire, Burnin' Bridges, Long Day, Work, Where'd You Go, like they are all fantastic. They are all just top tier hip-hop bangers. Most of the features on this album land on these types of tracks too, and honestly I think they are all absolutely excellent as well. I mean, especially like IDK's verse on Burnin' Bridges is just like a highlight and a half. Even the very like rap god-esque skippity boppity beep boop bee like fast rap section actually does come off as really exhilarating on the song and doesn't really elicit the same eye-roll inducing reactions that it typically does from most rappers embarking on it these days. I also think Candles on Fire has my favorite instrumental on this entire project, with this just earthquake-like drum pattern and a JPEG Mafia sort of approach to sampling. Quadeca's delivery on this cut is also just super frantic and high energy, and the song serves as an incredible foil to Sisyphus, which it immediately follows in the track list. Quadeca really is a genuinely skilled composer, and even when this album goes slower or spacier or more instrumentally focused, nothing that is ever going on feels pointless. Every single moment on this album was crafted with purpose, whether or not the song ends up being absolutely amazing. I mean, I guess if I had to single out a moment that was kind of underwhelming even so, I'd probably have to point to Can't You See being pushed right up against the Verglas interlude in the track list. Can't You See is already a track that's so spacey that pushing it up next to another track that is equally as spacey, but this time instrumental based, really does make things start to feel like they're dragging on a bit. Regardless, the album's other interludes are already so great, and I really think that the very low-key two-part Summit finisher is an excellent exercise in creating an impactful climax without making use of an instrumental that's directly impactful in itself. The tracks really complete the narrative of this album, with Quadeca finally reaching the summit that he has been working towards throughout this record. Even though he's reached the summit, though, he still alludes to the fact that he is still climbing. Maybe he always will be, much like Sisyphus in his own mythos. That, coupled with how enjoyable I found this record, really does give me hope that this is only the beginning of Quadeca's climb. So, all in all, I'm absolutely thrilled to say that I love this album. Quadeca has completely reinvented himself, and bar a couple of, corny vocal passages here and there, I really do think that he has succeeded in elevating this style of hip-hop to that of genuine art. While there are a few elements that can feel derivative, especially those more straightforward early Drake-style hooks, I do think that the album is still absolutely excellent overall. The production here is immaculate, Quadeca's skill as a rapper is evident. I'm really just praying that this isn't a one-off, and Quadeca really keeps this artistic high up, because wow, he has outdone himself on this LP. So, with that being said, my final score for From Me to You is... Thanks to everybody who checked out the review. If you like what you saw, be sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new around here. Hit the bell to be notified whenever I upload new videos, and follow me on Instagram @_NoCNotes for access to all of my exclusive live streams and other content. I appreciate you coming by, guys. Thank you, as always, for watching NoCNotes. My name is Zach NoC. Stay hydrated, and I will see you guys for the next one. Peace. Hip-hop to one of the highest artistic heights I have ever heard it go. Yo, there is neighbors making noise. Thank God that stopped. I really hope y'all can't hear that.